Right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
You know, some careful editing of that last remark.
Hey, as long as I claim all the ethics for me, doesn't matter.
That's right. We should be getting those here sometime soon.
I sent it by the end of January, first part of February. That's how long it's good for. On the website.
Yeah, they're not due back into like what, April or something like that, March, April, something.
Whenever the tax filing deadline is, that's when I try to make sure I've got mine mailed in by something like that. Or I mail my taxes in the same time I do that. It's something like that.
It seems like sometime in February, usually when I fill mine out, it's usually in February sometime. Things like that, but it's not due like I think until.
Plenty busy.
Hey, Nick.
Hey, look how you. Oh, something shave thing.
I just make a copy of last.
Taking the last
year's and then just
No, that's
that thing where
hopefully there's not the only two.
I want to make sure I'm right. If you got like,
If they
I've got
are,
all these
you
different
can
mutual
get,
funds, all these stocks, and all of them are $1,000. You know, like it says, like it's $500 or $1,000 something. I mean, I make a separate sheet of paper and I've got it through like, I got like A, B, C, and then it goes like A, B, B, C.
Front back.
Yeah, I only need one.
There's only two sitting there.
You got it. It may not be, I may not need to list all them, but I don't want to not list them. So I just take the list from the year before and it's like, yeah, I still got all them, and then I added it, you know.
Huh?
If it's okay with you, it's okay with me.
But everyone else I've told.
What's that? I defer.
I've narrowed mine down.
Well, I should have, you know, but when I did, every so often when I'd add more money,
Yeah,
I'm like,
maybe you're
I don't
right.
have that one. I'll start putting $20 to pay that one, you know? And then all of a sudden, yeah, all of a sudden it's like, I don't have that one either, so okay. And so, so I'm really diversified, which is wrong. Right. I mean, I'm over-diversified, you know what I'm saying?
Get some copies.
Yeah, it's like playing them all. Yeah, I win, but it's like, no, you lose money because
So did you get your shave and a haircut?
So I was looking the other day and I thought,
They're going to do a council meeting.
slowly, like,
My mother died 6 years ago today.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. Well, what I'm afraid of is like,
I was just
okay, let's see,
thinking
option A, B, and C. I said, well, I gotta give you some copies. So you're gonna see.
Chief, did you bring one?
Copies.
I'm sorry, I had 12
Whatever
here.
has a B, or if
You
I
did?
made a B,
I've got
it'll be
one.
the opposite.
All right,
So remember which one
then
I
we should
picked?
be
I picked the wrong one.
I just got mine working.
So,
Get his done.
So many like different levels.
Did you, Chief?
No, I did not. But I was waiting.
Have you been
Linda
here
said,
well,
since
right
right
before
Friday?
the fiscal close.
Those figures, she said, I'll give them to you, but they're not
money there. So I said,
Oh,
I got all this money in it.
budgeting and all that
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
I said,
They ended up being pretty
would it be
close.
wrong to maybe
So
take
anyway,
some
that was
of
part of it.
and move it over like the stable value?
Yeah,
And
Mr.
then
Henry.
he goes, well, it ain't gonna hurt nothing.
Wages
you
include
lose, you know,
holiday
you
pay,
lose what you would have
even
gotten.
what I
I said, well, what we did is my top one is what I did is I
Figures
took
I had
20% out of
longevity
the top
and
three and put it in to the guaranteed.
it's confusing.
And I thought, well, if nothing else, I saved 20% of the money. If it all fails,
Yeah.
I saved 20% of the money, you know? And of course, it didn't went the other way. So,
Cletus got a couple pairs of shoes at Elder Beerman the other day, but I didn't see you in there.
so
Yeah. I bought a couple pair of shoes over at Elder Beerman the other day, but I
we're
didn't
gonna
see
have
you in
a
there. When I was
special
in
council
town.
meeting Thursday. Yeah. I can't see your
Oh,
clock. It's
no,
almost
no, it
time.
was during the week in the evening, maybe a Thursday or something. I can't
Huh.
remember.
I worked
Like 5:30.
Saturday.
Nice lady came over and helped me. She was over in
We'll
the
watch it
one
on
section
snow.
that's next to the
In
men's
lose
section.
time, this one
She came in, she got
Put the two together,
black
I
hair,
tried.
dark hair. Looks like maybe she
Add
died.
them together. And
I can't remember her name. Anyway, I've seen her in there before. She's been an employee there for a while. She's real nice.
Previous year.
Is that different than
I
what?
don't have a good,
Chief? Is that different
Yeah.
than what?
See Lynn put this here.
whatever Lynn sent you, that'd be actually the same.
They got ours caught.
30 seconds.
Cul-de-sac and they can't even get out the street.
What's
I don't remember
the same committee? I'd like to do, I think I'm the,
Yeah, Dick, you're third in command. So you're it.
committee only one.
You're committee of one.
says 5:29.
You got 3 seconds.
3, 2, 1.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna,
It's time.
5:30, call the special, council meeting to order. We'll dispense with most of the rolls, except I will do, roll call. Mrs. Cole?
Here.
Mr. Crable? Here. Mr. Heffley? Mr. Henry?
Here.
Mr. Johnson? Mr. Kelly? Here. Mr. Morrow?
Here.
Okay.
Need a motion to.
Yeah, motion to excuse, Mr. Heffley and Mr.
So
Johnson.
moved.
Second.
Mr. Crable. And
Second by Cletus.
Henry. Okay. Excuse them. Okay.
You need to vote on that motion, right? To
Oh,
excuse?
yeah, all in favor of excusing, say aye.
Aye.
Same sign opposed, yeah, the motion carried, or been excused. Thanks, Mayor, for
Yep.
getting sidetracked there a little bit.
I'll talk to you later.
Okay, our special meeting is for resolution number 2013-1. A resolution authorizing appropriation of $62,180 within the capital improvement fund and authorizing and directing the mayor to enter into an agreement with the Ohio Department of Transportation to pay South 30th Street and the declaration of an emergency. Just need a motion, a second, and have discussion after we do that.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Morrow, and a second by Mr. Henry. Now discussion. John, do you want to explain a little bit?
Yeah, what happens is whenever we have an ODEP project, we get a package from them that completes all the administrative work. The package contains financial certificates, it contains a contract with them, and it contains a resolution that stipulates certain things. And we are required to appropriate the funding for the project at that time, plus approve all of the facets that are in the contract and resolution. Dave has reviewed it and he has some concerns. And those concerns warrant us basically redoing part of that adoption process. And Dave, I think it might be better for you to explain.
Well, our charter requires that the appropriation be done by ordinance, and an ordinance was prepared and passed at the meeting last week. But we didn't have the resolution that the state of Ohio requires. And so this is just red tape. We've already done it, and I want the minutes to reflect that we're not appropriating the same amount of money a second time that's already appropriated, but we're just enacting the ordinance that ODOT requires us to enact.
Do I need to have the motion be to suspend the rules around this, or just waive second reading? I mean, and declare, I mean, since we're doing it after the fact, I mean, would it be better?
Well, we can just waive second reading,
Waive second reading.
and then, but we've got the, suspended rules, you mean declare an emergency?
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to do that. It'd be a good idea to do that too, just to make sure that there's no question, because this is significantly longer than the ordinance we passed last week.
Okay, so I guess if there's no discussion, Mr. Morrow, could I have you make your motion be that to suspend the rules and there'd be a second.
Resolution
okay.
number 2013.
Yeah, resolution 2013. Okay, all in favor of that motion to suspend the rules?
Don't we need to do an individual roll call?
Yeah, that's right. Roll call. Mrs. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Crable?
Yes.
Mr. Henry?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly? Yes. Mr. Morrow?
Yes.
Okay, that's suspend the rules. Now, Mr. Morrow, make a motion to adopt.
Now I'd like to make a resolution to adopt resolution 2013.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion on that? Roll call. Mrs. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Crable?
Yes.
Mr. Henry?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly? Yes. Mr. Morrow?
Yes.
Okay, so resolution 2013-1 has been adopted.
I'll be talking to Lynn probably tomorrow to make sure that the minutes reflect it. Keith had a concern that it might look like we were doing the same thing twice, and we only wanted to do it once as far as the money goes. So I'll make sure that that the explanation's in the minutes.
So in the future, if we're putting in our portion of the funding for an ODOT project, do we need to do an ordinance and a resolution
Maybe
jointly?
Where do you think that?
Well, the charter
A
requires.
resolution doesn't allow us to appropriate money, an ordinance does.
Correct. But ODOT requires it, so we're just doing it, it's just like red tape and sealing wax as far as the law goes. It doesn't have any legal effect at all.
So we ought to just
From now on,
do
that's
them
what
in
we'll do.
conjunction, just so
We'll
it
do
doesn't
both.
look so clumsy.
Simultaneous,
Yeah.
resolution and ordinance.
Yes,
Right.
I agree.
Standard operating
They don't
procedure.
want
Okay.
I didn't find out about it until the day after the meeting, so we,
All right.
it's the first chance we had.
I want to thank Dave for investigating that for us. And two other things, if you did appropriate another $60,000, just put it in my budget. And second, there are actually 3 resolutions there. If you could make sure you sign all 3 tonight, maybe give them to the mayor or something like that, or if you want to sign them now, I'll take them.
Okay, I'll have to-
Any other business for this meeting?
I don't think so, so I need a motion to adjourn.
Adjourn.
Okay. All right, we are adjourned.
I just need to get those resolutions.
Okay,
Maybe you can give them to the mayor tonight.
I'll sign them and then I'll just slide them down there. I can sign them right now. If, Mr. Martin wants to go into a safety committee meeting, I can sign
Thank you.
them. Thank you.
5:36, we'll call the safety committee together.
I'm in charge, I'm the only one here.
You got to go first. You got here first.
Very good. I'll be departing when I'm done. I have a class to teach tonight. CTEC students. Okay. The December statistics as well as the end of the year. I will give you a better breakdown of stuff next safety committee as far as where the mutual aids were and such. I started doing that, I just don't have it done. But as you can see, 399 versus 462, an increase of 63 fire runs for the year. Some of that was storm related, but some of it wasn't. EMS wise 1653 versus 1841, 188 additional squad runs this year over last year. Transports 939 versus 1100 and 1117, 178 transports over the previous year. Our runs increased by 251 overall for the entire year, and as I said, a small portion of that is storm related, but no explanation, no other reason, just a lot of house calls to fix. So this was record setting, 2,303. You look at other forms, there's 2,317 on a printout for 904, but that's another story. But my statistics show 2,303. We went out 348 times to give mutual aid.
Is that
The
part of
city
the
of Newark,
2303?
that is part of the 2303, but we got 241 times we got mutual aid back, and that number really doesn't reflect the day of the Holiday Inn Express fire. There was 8 fire departments from as far as Johnstown and West Licking and all that came in. That counted as one run, but you know, I'm going to try to give you a better breakdown of how many actual units came in. And it's probably, the way I was looking at the stats last night, 4 fire calls than EMS. We've been working for a lot of EMS calls, but it still looks like we're looking at work. And that's where we go more than AWOLs. We talked, Brooklyn Township Fire Company. They helped us. I'll have that broken down.
But on the surface, we're providing mutual aid a third more than CFO.
I'm sorry.
About 30%, 31%, nearly a third more are we giving than receiving.
Right. That, there was a time, Jeff, that was 10 to 1.
Oh, it's ugly. I mean,
So the automatic responses and things, it is getting much fairer, but it's still
I thought it was more balanced than what this reflects.
I thought that too. In
Whoever
past
keeps your overtime.
years.
And I have reported to you in past tense that between the city of Newark and Heath is almost 1 to 1. To get the stats done, they may have come here as much or more than we went there. But that's solely with the city of Newark. And you know, I ran those stats for you, for the first 8 months of the year, and it was kind of a wash.
Yeah.
But, so we'll know more next meeting. I have one legislative request, and every year I forget this, so it's keeping the tradition. Entering into an agreement with Franklin Township, Licking County, to provide fire and EMS protection from and after January 1, 2013 to December 31st, 2014. So I went for a 2-year, which is what I did last time. It's currently $6,000, and I recommend that we up it by 2% or another $120. So $61.20. 0.60 for the second year of this contract. Of course, we still get EMS billing, and I don't have those figures calculated as of yet. We went into Franklin Township 25, 26 times, but I haven't looked at the true addresses. Some of those for mutual aids of Licking Township Fire Company, which provides a lot of mutual aid into Franklin Township. We have just such a small portion. We usually average 20, 24 calls. Some of them are fire, some of them are EMS in our small portion. And of course, we still, that has been a conflict in past tense, but we're still getting EMS billing money just like we do our citizens in the city of Heath. So when you look at that number, look at the overall money generated by that contract, it is significantly more.
Do you, I think I know the answer, but I can't remember, when we make a squad run in Newark, do we get the EMS billing for that, or do they?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we do.
Whatever squad carries the patient to the hospital, that's billing.
I thought we did, but I think.
And that's somewhat interesting, yeah.
The 2-year extension with the $120 increase, is that the first increase in a number of years, or?
We upped it, I think 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it was.
$5,000 last time, I
This is
remember,
six.
I missed a couple of years, obviously. So.
Yeah. And it's still, as I said, when we take a look at, I've got to work with Kim at MedBill. I need to pull, because this was something that Butch generated in the last contract, that I'm supposed to give them a report and how much EMS billing money was generated by that. Until I get the run calls, the correct addresses, and then send out the MedBill and extract that information. So anyway, that's part of the delay on that. Does that make sense? Any questions?
Yes. Gary Jarvis, whether we had the contract with him or not.
Thanks, John.
Well, to kind of clarify, I think we'd still provide mutual aid to them. I mean, if they needed us there and we didn't have a contract with them, we'd still go.
That's correct. So we would still bill them. And, you know.
No, what I mean, if we didn't enter the agreement and just said, no, we don't want to provide you mutual aid anymore, and they said, well, we don't want to pay the $6,000, the fact of the matter is, you wouldn't deny assistance.
That's correct.
So it's a no-brainer to take
The one thing,
$6,000 a
of
year.
course, you know, the one thing with our small portion of the contract area, most people get the same response, and you get an all-out effort from the city of Heath, whereas a mutual aid agreement, if you're pulling your manpower, leaving yourself short, you don't have to respond
Have to
to
go
that.
right.
So those people are getting a good bang for their buck. But, questions? So anyway, I'm turning that in, and it just, I'm sorry.
Chairman's back.
Yes, that's right, you're no longer in charge.
He's always in charge. Really a voting member.
Okay.
Are you good?
I got to lose.
Monthly expenses. December wages were $110,943, which usually runs, and you can see 2011 69. This time, this includes the holiday pay in the wages, and that's just what I got from City Hall at the time. I was told, that's what we did pay out.
So did the 2000?
The 2011 wage.
I can't include the holiday.
No, it couldn't have. No, because, that holiday wage includes, I think that was about $47,000.
Yeah, that 2011 number could not have included that. Okay.
So, that being said, overtime for December was $38,329.13, and the total was a record-setting $314,765.94. An $83,658 difference from the beginning of this year. So we had a good year last year. This year, fortunately, with 3 different people off and such. But, that's the stats.
We had a retirement too. Or, I don't know, retirement, whatever.
Buyout and
Resignation.
right, one slot was open for an extended period, and then 3 of them were off. Causing the longest period. And just about every other year, it's consistently that way. There's just nothing you can do about it. Now, there is a couple things to be said about it.
Would the holiday pay be about $8,000? Because in November, it was $92,000, and that was 3 days.
Because November had 3
Yeah.
days.
And I'll tell you, you'll have to ask that. That I don't know. Earlier, when we were talking about this, I was saying she told me it was around, and I wrote it down on something, but I don't have it. About 47,000. Would you say 8? I got that much holiday pay myself.
Well, I know. I was wondering whether you were
I'm kidding.
included last year. Didn't slow me down.
Let's make sure everybody understands also that, correct me if I'm wrong, Chief, I believe the fire department operates differently in the paying of its holiday pay as opposed to all the other city employees. All the other city employees get their holiday pay as the holidays come and go. You get them in their paychecks year round. Fire department employees have their holiday pay all paid out at once. Is that right?
Correct, at the end of the year.
Okay. So, what I want to make sure you understand is this does not reflect pay for Christmas or Thanksgiving or both of them combined. These are all of the holidays through the year that throughout the rest of the city get paid out in increments, paycheck by paycheck as the holidays come and go. Fire department gets them all paid, boom, at once.
At the end of the year, and the city recognizes 10, 11 holidays, and the fire department gets 8/10 of those holidays. It's 190 hours of, don't quote me.
I have to read it. Yeah.
But yeah, it's like 8/10 of the
Exactly.
recognized holidays.
Is it precedence of contract or what?
It's the what's that?
Precedence of previous contract, is that
That has been that way for,
why it's so distorted?
How long's it been that way for, Chief? Getting paid that way on holidays?
as long as I can remember.
What, a couple years?
Okay. Yep, that's okay.
Only been candles for
I watched an entire flat. I have
I just find it amazing we can say, oh, hey, we had a good year last year, we only had 238,000 in overtime, that's a good year.
Yeah. anyway, that being said, under equipment, Medic 9 brakes, we had to replace a module and a little motor for the Heath that opens louver doors. I think I reported that before, but went back over. This has been repaired a couple different times on the two newer Medics, about $1,000 repair cost. Got the actual bill for the vehicle. Let's see, under personnel, Boffman is doing well. Like I said, he's being counted and has been counted for a while. He just his tours just changed. He's working out of Station 2 now, and it won't be long to turn him loose and actually put him on the overtime list and such. But he's doing. He was a quick learner, and he had an advanced training anyway, having been here. So we're very happy with his progress. And he's very happy to be here. Training ACLS, the 18th and 19th this coming weekend, Friday and Saturday. It's actually two distinct classes. You either go on Friday or you go on Saturday. Air Evac is providing this class, and there's certain things that you have to pay for, but this we're still getting about a fifth the cost. Because you've got to get books and things. There's, certification through American Heart and all that. You have to kick into whatever. But that class usually, I think it's going to be $400. That class usually costs us over $2,000. Back when, before Air Evac entered the area, and then rapid sequence innovation. We had the 29th, 30th, and 31st is being provided by MedFlight. We hope. And that should be a free for our guys. So on the online store, working well. Really no old business to speak of. It's based on last agenda. And I just put marathon on the 22nd is asked for us to come up and just walk through marathon, talk about some fire safety systems and such. Some of the foam systems on the tanks, they've said questions. So we're going to hopefully, before I'm gone, we'll hopefully improve that site, make it a little safer. Anyway, other than that, that's all I have to report. Any questions? Okay. Thanks, Chief. This is part of that's okay. That's fine. Nice seat.
Oh, it's always a pleasure. I'm glad you got to see me.
Maybe we should let you start all the meetings. That was fast.
He's got to go.
Thank you.
Fish, forget, you gotta go to C-Tech tonight.
It's not my birthday, I'm going first, so.
Chief Shepherd, do you have another copy of your agenda for me, or no? Do you have any other?
Yes.
Yeah.
Here you go. It's easier. It's easier.
Yeah, I just have that last one.
Got extra?
I'm sure the benefit is you're getting to be concerned. All right, Chief Shepherd, you're up.
I'm up and at 'em. December 2012 statistics. Calls for service 1,417, 158, 156 offense reports, 48 arrests, 52 accidents, 81 citations, and you've got previous years to the right. Overtime, 10,682. When you look back through history, it's pretty good for us. I don't have the 2012. Debbie's didn't have that for me, but I think it'll be probably one of the lowest ones yet, particularly since 2008.
I have matter I wanted to bring up for discussion. I have a legislative request, is the next thing on your copy of the agenda, but I forgot to put this on. Been working on it for a few weeks, but if you recall, last year we discussed moving the impound lot to the green area, where the Verizon tower is now. And I think we figured the cost associated with doing that is going to be about $100,000. And so the interest diminished significantly when that was reported. But I think everybody is in agreement that that would be a great idea, because it would make the officer's job so much simpler, and particularly the dispatchers when it came to releasing automobiles. I gave you examples of when having a remote location turned into an ugly matter for us, particularly when we'd send somebody to meet an officer to the current location, and the officer would get an emergency call, and the people would have to wait unnecessarily to get the car back to rightfully theirs after they paid the fees. So the solution I even suggested, and Mr. Crable remembers when I first became chief of moving up here. Anyway, that's not going to happen anywhere soon. At the last month's safety meeting, you might recall some discussion about the fire chief's request to use Jay's towing because for extraction purposes, because they had trained with him, and in doing so, Jay's towing staff certainly had become proficient in doing that, and impressed the chief with their ability and resources. But then the topic came up about the call-out list for wrecker services, and would that cause some havoc or violation of that? I don't know what to call it. It's not a rule or anything. It's just the way business has begun. And when I looked into that when I first became chief, I didn't like that either. The answer I kept getting was, that's the way it's always been, and that's the way it's always going to be. Well, when I said that again, the mayor and some others, we talked about, let's have our law director look into it, and he did. And as I would have guessed, there is no precedent, there's no law, there's no rule, there is nothing that mandates that the city of Heath and its police department or fire department use a rotating list. It came out of probably some sort of necessity back in the early 90s, at least in the research I can find. And so it's been adhered to by every law enforcement agency since its inception back during that time period. But our law director looked into it, and he agreed there's nothing to preclude us from choosing one vendor over several for wrecker services. And so that was good news, because quite frankly, Jay's has probably the largest variety and number of wreckers. He's got a talented staff. Very professional. His equipment is also very professional. I think when they show up on a scene, they kind of represent us. I'll often make a joke that some of the firms look like they need a record truck to get the record there. And I have terminated a couple of firms since my tenure here because they were unreliable, or I think one of them was hiring folks as they walked out of the federal prison. But anyway, well, I got my wheels turning. Once we got over that issue, and thought about the impound lot. So I had an informal discussion with Jay's. You know, if we were to use him exclusively, now that's, you know, unless the vehicle owner had their own tow firm they wanted to use. That's currently what we do. If they have a particular one, we call them instead. But anyway, Jay's has 8 acres. I know you're all familiar with this location, and it's most of it's surrounded by security fence. And I thought it'd be a great place for a police impound lot. So if we were to use Jay's towing, it would solve so many issues, because Jay's has a staff member in their office until midnight every night. If our impound lot was co-located at their premises, there'd be no need for an officer to meet anyone, and one of their staff members could simply make sure they have a release and make the car available to them. One of the problems we've been running into, because often there are only 2 officers on duty, and we get calls stacked up while we're messing around with the car, whether it's a criminal arrest or out of an accident. We have to wait for the wrecker to arrive, and then have the wrecker follow us to the impound lot, let the wrecker driver in, get rid of the vehicle, unload the vehicle, and then exit the gate, lock it up, and then go on the however many calls there are waiting on he or she. And when an emergency comes up, rather than do all that, the officers have the wrecker driver take it to their own lot. So there's revenue that we're losing, potentially hundreds of dollars, depending on how long the car might be sitting in that lot. So anyway, with all those inefficiencies that we currently have, and here's an opportunity to virtually eliminate those kinds of things that we run across. Jay's Towing, Jay Jones, the owner, has made an offer. And these were just informal discussions. He would erect a police impound lot. By that I mean excavate, put a gravel bed in, a security fence all the way around it, and put it to the rear of his main building, 80 feet by 100 feet, and also a 1-car garage. Because if we seize a car, we have the ultimate responsibility for it. Now, if we just simply impound one and it's broken into or damage is done to it, sorry about your luck. You know, we're not liable. But if we seize it because it was used to rob a bank or to further some kind of criminal act, and we're going to ask the court to award it to us, we got to make sure that car, if it has to be returned, is in as good a shape as it was when we took it. So he also would include a one-car garage. Plus, there's some small tools and other items we need to keep at our impound location. Probably some jumper cables, things like that. Maybe an air tank in case there's a flat tire. You know, well, that's what we have available to us. But we have to run back here to get it. That's the only problem, because we don't have a building in our current lot. But anyway, so we're looking at an impound lot, an 80 by 100 impound lot with a one-car garage that he would be willing to lease to us. Now, he has offered to do so for $450 a month. Now, he's probably, I believe he said he has quotes amounting to $11,000 to do this. And obviously, if we engaged those terms with him and then decided we didn't like that anymore, had a better offer, he knows that he can certainly use it for other purposes. And if those of you that know Jay, he's a very civic-minded individual, and I know he's probably offering about the best price he can. I think he's willing to negotiate if you feel that's too much, but frankly, I think we'll make that much just because of the inefficiencies. Now, I'm talking about officer and dispatcher time, and that'll be virtually eliminated. And time is money, and so I present that as.
Have we had physical damage to cars down where they're at now?
Oh, sure.
Has that been a problem?
Yeah. Now it was reduced dramatically after we put the camera in. And if we were to do this, I should have mentioned, he has an internet, and so we'd simply just move our camera, which is live with motion detection. It was a lot of fun. I'm sure you've heard me say before, the first few weeks that we had that camera in there, it was like we were fishing, and every night we were catching somebody, and that was a lot of fun until the word got out through the criminal network that we had a real camera down there now. So,
Chief, does that price reflect us putting an IP camera connected directly to our dispatch center as part of the security?
I told him that would be need to be erected, and I said we could probably place it somewhere where it might be of benefit to you too. So yes, he knows.
Okay.
What does he stand to gain revenue-wise if we were making a rotation process?
Oh, we impounded 212 cars last year. Now, I don't know how many of those were for the Heath impound lot, how many were for safekeeping and so on and so forth. He's not going to make any money on even if they were all destined to go to the impound line. Well, take that back. We had 212 impounds. I said vehicles towed, but we impounded 212. So those, just because they're going to his lot, an impound's an impound. Now, if it's out of an automobile accident and we had no reason to impound it, it would go in his yard instead, and he would probably, just like any of the other.
It's where he make his money.
Yeah.
Exclusive.
That, and also if he's leasing it to us for $450 a month and he's got 11 grand into it, he's getting his 11 grand back in about 2 years.
What do we charge now?
Just
Like,
in lease payments, you can get.
you go out there and we have to impound a car. Let's say it's got bad plates or something, whatever. Right? The tow truck company comes and gets it, takes it down and impounds it. Right? Now, do we charge so much for that first tow, and then do we charge so much every day or week or whatever? Okay. Now, if it went to Jay's, we still get that. We still get those fees and stuff.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So essentially, all we're really doing is just paying for it to be there, as opposed to the ground that we're not paying for right now. So we have a little bit a better now as far as getting the vehicles out of that. It's part of that thing that guy then releases. His employee would release. We don't have to send a police officer to Jay's to release the cars.
No,
we save all that time and everything there. So really, for $450, we're getting that efficiency.
Yeah.
Which is probably. I mean, I don't know how many a month we would take in and out, but that seems like that would be a win-win right there. You know?
What happens right now is if somebody comes at an odd time, they show up over at the dispatchers, say they want to go get a car out of their impound lot. Our dispatchers have to call an officer off the street. If it's at night, right?
Yeah.
If there's not, personnel in here during the day. Officer comes in, they go out to Geller Park, they go get the vehicle or whatever. I mean, you're talking, depending on where that officer was, you're probably talking 20, 25 minutes out of that officer's time where they could be doing probably, more effective law enforcement things.
Yeah, I mean,
we're still getting to charge all the fees that we charged before.
what kind of fees do we get? I mean, I'm just curious, like per month, we're paying $450. The fees coming in, would it be close to paying for that? I mean, I don't know how much we get per month.
Well, we get it's $12 a day storage.
Oh, okay.
And
Depends on how many cars are impounded and how long they stay.
yeah.
And then whether the people pay or not. Once they stay so long, the people say the heck with it, and then that's when we sell them off to get the money and stuff like that.
Is that fee regulated by us, or is it the state tell you how?
It's by us.
Hearing me thinking the same way.
How do we measure up versus other communities? That seems very low.
It is low, but it's probably in line with the rest of the law enforcement agencies. But I haven't asked in a long time, and I asked Jay, as a matter of fact, when we were talking about all this, if he took a car, towed a car to his lot and kept it, he would charge more than what we charge.
$20 for a motorcycle per day.
Yeah.
How much?
20.
Yeah. And the tow fee would be more too. I guess we don't want to look like we make a business out of, or it's lucrative for the department to tow cars. We tow cars because it's not permissible for them to drive them, or we need to remove the owner from the car, or vice versa, or whatever. But we're not in the business of towing cars. So the last caveat with all this is that these, as a group, these tow firms agree to abide by what we negotiate what we will pay, and they sign an agreement. Now, this agreement is really binding on them. I should have brought one, and particularly, well, if he's not here now, but Mr. Morrison will probably want to look at that. What's interesting is when I started discussions with Jay about this, was to find out who is up to date on our agreements. I just figured it would throw us a curveball. You know, they would call it a contract, and I guess the Webster's Dictionary could be called that, but only one tow firm remembered they had to sign up last August. So if council would
How many other tow people are we using?
I think there's about 10 on West.
How many are in the city?
Just Jay's. And but anyway,
Wow, within our borders, we have
there's
one.
only one agreement.
Gee.
We have only one signed agreement, and I just simply
Win a lot of tiebreakers.
leave. All I need to do is write him a 30-day notice. So I told.
So the one who did get the agreement back on time was not Jay's?
Right. Yeah, even Jay's didn't. So it's just, it's just a formality of sorts.
Yeah.
What are the liability type insurances would he need to carry, or we need to carry, or would it be covered in the language of this lease?
Well,
As far as property that we're responsible for in a chain of title, in a litigation situation?
well,
Have we researched all this, or we're going
No.
to research all this?
well, yes. I mean, we'll put it.
Oh, yes.
I mean, if you say it sounds good, then the next step would be to have the law director look it over. Now, the law director did say that we didn't need to, nor should we, enter into a contract declaring him as our exclusive provider of tow services. We don't need to do that.
It can be done de facto.
Yeah, and I mean, it's like with any other vendor. We don't have to,
Sure.
Now,
but if it's Jay Jones' feeling that to from his own perspective of a liability, he would need to say, yeah, this belongs to the city of Heath. Anything that happens here is on the city of Heath. So, he's just as concerned as we would be. And so
That would be part of the lease agreement, I would assume.
I'm sure.
Yeah, other than
Yeah, I would assume. We didn't. We let the people that put JD behind their names discuss that.
Do you have a reconcilement of the revenue that's generated from this activity? That we could,
Yeah, I mean, I don't have it on me, but
I understand, but obviously if we're gonna embark into spending more money, we need to see the other side of the balance sheet here, and
Yeah.
P&L statement.
well,
What sort of non-tax revenue this
Yeah.
this activity has generated
Mhm.
over the course of the last few years.
What do we
Somebody does the
figure
five-year
on
spend.
average each year? We get maybe $18,000, $19,000, $20,000 a year in just the auction
Yeah.
of cars that we've impounded.
the most profitable aspect of it is the auctioning.
And those are the cars that were not paid for to
Right.
be gotten out of impound.
Right. Or they were awarded.
Yeah, or that yeah, that's right.
impound only?
Yes.
So if somebody is in a wreck and they want Wally to tow them, they can request Wally.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we would not deny somebody wanting a particular firm because they're going to pay that bill. We're not.
Look, I can
And then
open
that
it up,
car
you
would
pull
then
the
also
old-
be taken to Jay's property?
No, if it's an owner's request, it'll go wherever they want.
Okay.
So if there was an accident or something like that, it's not getting impounded, is what, right?
Yeah, they might want it towed to Matthews to have the body damage done.
Okay.
Or
And Jay's would be, this is the exclusive, they would be your first call. You could call somebody else if you need.
yes, they wouldn't preclude us from calling others, and he knows how that works.
And then we also are going to save quite a bit of time and officer time, because if there's an accident or anytime you use another company, or you stated how long it takes them to get there on some occasions, the officer's gonna stay with the car and wait.
Yes.
So we're gonna save, well, at least I shouldn't say save, we're paying regardless, but we'll be more efficient in the field at the same time.
Oh, much more efficient. I mean, if it's, we have wreckers take upwards of a half an hour to arrive, and, and it doesn't stop there. Then you have to go to the impound line. So the advantage with the scenario I described, if we were to work with Jay's, is that once the officer's paperwork's done and the tow vehicle has hooked up, the officer can go.
Right. And you'll be able to still negotiate the pricing, even though it's just with Jay, you're still negotiating the price.
Right.
So I think Tim and Dwayne, and I have a question down there. Tim, you had a question?
Yeah. I was just wondering if you could have Jay's be the towing company, okay, but instead of Jay's putting the fence and the gravel for the lot, if you spent that money like here where we talked about having it and everything, would you rather have that or would you rather have the Jay? In other words, Jay's going to provide an 80 by 100 fenced in area with a gravel lot, okay? If we go out here and do an 80 by 100 gravel lot, okay, instead of us paying $450 a month for it, we'd pay whatever $1,000 it costs to have
And a one car.
Well, I'm just thinking we use one of the garages out here. One of the garages we already have is instead of building another garage, we got one car garage.
Yeah.
I wonder too what happens if you have 2 or 3 cars that you'd have to protect. We'd do something different scenario then. But anyway, I mean, the advantage of having it Jay's is if we have it here, then we still have to have a police officer or somebody walk out of here and walk over there to let them in and let them out.
Well,
or,
my vision was to locate the gate near the barn and have a camera on it.
Yeah. Oh.
So in a remote control gate, so the dispatchers could.
Well, I've never been in favor of out there. To me, we don't need a junkyard out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
was that was the complaint early in my tenure, was that it would be an eyesore. But as some of us have discussed, we have one now, but that's Verizon Tower. But frankly, I wouldn't mind getting out of the impound business, so to speak.
Yeah, I just wonder. I'm just just trying to wonder if you're spending money. I'm thinking if we had our own, then it's not $450 a month for a month for a year. Once you've paid for it, you're head. But
we make more than that.
Yeah. My second question is, if we have one of the Jay's employees that is releasing these vehicles to people and stuff, I mean, what if he makes a mistake or while he's he's out there and 3 people show up to get this car, and while he's talking to the guy there, I mean, somebody would happen to steal something out of another vehicle or something that's laying around there or something would happen. I mean, how much liability are we putting on that Jay's employee that has to be, as opposed to normally when there's an officer there and he's saying, I mean,
well, the same thing could happen with an officer there.
Well, I know it could. I'm just wondering, it's one thing if a police officer there with a gun on his side, whether people's going to do stuff, and it's just a minimum wage employee walking out there and saying, "Oh, you're supposed to pick up the pickup truck. Okay, here's the keys, and away you go." And he gave him the wrong keys or something.
Well,
I don't know.
You know as well as I do. Jay trained his employees.
Well, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't want to put too much pressure on. I'm saying, like you say, if they're open till midnight, someone comes in at 11:30 at night. And,
Well, I think that's one of the reasons he strategically placed it right beside his main building, because that dispatcher and receptionist that's sitting in there is right here. Well, there's a doorway, a rear doorway where they could step in and into the impound lot. And so I'm sure he's thought about his employees' safety and.
Yeah, that's all I
and then
wonder about, you know.
We would have a camera on him as well.
I just know sometimes people get really irate, you know, you took my car and it's gonna be so much money, you know, and take it out on that person as opposed to, you know, that person has nothing to do with it, you know, they're just taking, you know.
They deal with that every day.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
that's
they better be careful which one they pick on. Because they might be wind up the impound lot for some other reason.
We're not inventing the wheel. Other towns have done this, as far as you know.
Well, I don't know. Now, Gehanna, we didn't have an impound lot. We had an exclusive towing firm who provided the impound lot.
That's what I mean.
Right, but we didn't collect fees either.
I did that when I was.
What they charge?
Zero.
A lot for the
All the money went to the wrecker
They have the
service.
spoke wheels on it.
Even the abandoned vehicles.
I'm saying, you see that the numbers of just to substantiate 450 that we would spend, just to see what our revenue is from liquidating of cars and total fees, even if it's brought up to a more of a marketable rate, it might. And even others.
Dwayne's got a question. I think Ronnie has a question. I think Dick may have one. I'm trying to go.
I was going to say, and I talked to Keith when they were talking about the electronics for the cruisers. You were averaging over $14,000 per year on just the impound lot. That's, I mean, in the sales of the cars, that doesn't include any of your fees. So with what you're spending out on the technology, you still have about half of that, or a little more, open. So
yeah,
you've averaged over $14,000 a year for 5 years, on average.
Yeah, I wouldn't dispute that.
I've never been to one, but could Jay's accommodate the annual auction?
Yes, I asked him that as well.
Can he accommodate what?
The auction. Yeah, he's got 8 acres.
Which our Parks Department would love.
And we want to make Bobby happy.
Just tears up that part of the park.
Yeah,
We do that. It's muddy. It's
So there again, you work hard at the park, you got an impound lot.
Yeah, okay. She has a question, Deb. Yeah, I agree with you.
I just wanted to say, I think it's a great idea, and it will make us, the department, look so much better. That right there, without someone coming in and spewing from being down there waiting on a cruiser to come and let them in, has got to be a morale killer for the office. So I think
we feel terrible.
That's the greatest thing.
You know, we can't control when an emergency. We've had, and you know, I know we probably sent people down there twice and had a second time go down and another emergency call come in.
Did you have
More of the story, don't hang your car.
Well, sometimes it's typically an innocent owner of sorts. You know, the owner's got to
A few
get the
years
car out.
ago, I lost 2 shoplifters because the policeman said I had to screw that stupid lock gate down there.
On the impound fees and stuff, and someone, let's say the car gets impounded, where do they now? I mean, do they come in here and have to pay the fees?
Yeah,
if it's out at Jay's, will they go there and pay, or will they still have to come in here and pay?
Still need to come
Still
here.
come here and pay, and they get like a release form or something
Right.
to take down. Okay. Yeah. So it's just,
Did you have another question, Dan? Okay. Yeah, and I will say the same thing. I would certainly say, I know Jeff would like to see some more data. If you have time and could do that, that would be fine, because Jeff would like to take a look at it. That's fine. It's something that we can put around the table. Although, in my opinion, I think you should get the paperwork on it.
Anytime you're looking to spending money, you better know what you have to offset.
Well, yeah, and I'm not,
That's my.
and that's fine. I think what I wanted to say though is, and Dick, you support it, I know I'll support it, I'll sign off on it. Still need the support of council, but I would, at the same time you gave the information that Jeff Crable was looking for, I think I would get some legislation put together and all that for the next meeting.
Okay.
Difficult thing is going to be the soft costs, the efficiencies. You're not going to be able to put a dollar amount to that. That's going to be the hard thing to figure in as you're balancing the.
Because they're going to be still working the same, but it'll just be the
tangible benefit of your improved response time.
Yeah.
That overall is a department.
Right.
Put that into a tangible benefit to you within the department.
Well, I've often said, you know, when it comes down to dollars and cents, we're losing money every time we stop somebody and write them a ticket, because we get $9 of it, and it probably costs for the 15 minutes. It costs, you know, twice that much for the police officer.
We'll make it like courts.
Oh yeah.
That's always benefit.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I, you know, saying that we shouldn't enforce the law. I mean, that's just the unfortunate side of our services.
And we'll need, I don't know, we're gonna need to have some questions answered, because I would assume that when other people find out they're losing their business, out of those 10, we're not gonna have 3 or 4 show up.
Oh, sure.
Or call in. I'd like some answers to.
They're going to call me and call me names. You know, I went through the red light or camera thing. I don't think it hurt my feelings.
I don't call it often now.
No, not as much. But yeah, I don't have any. Just ask my kids. Would I be safe in sending out those letters that effective 30 days that we're going to use Jay's towing exclusively? I mean, the issue.
We don't want to say that, though.
Well,
what we want to tell them is that we're not going to utilize them. Isn't that what you said earlier?
You said just the one that submitted the paperwork.
well, there's only one who didn't sign an agreement, but we've been using the rotation system as it's been established. It's just
so if we don't have a current agreement, we don't owe them anything.
That's right. We don't, but we're going to catch hell anyway.
We might as well face the bullet and
yeah. I'd say write all of them a letter and let them, you know, get it off their chest. And
does this need to go through? Well, no.
I mean, they're just providing a service. I mean, it's like if I stopped shopping at
I mean, you could have done this without even telling us.
That's right. I think so, yeah.
Yes. Thanks for telling us.
Well,
except for the.
I'll tell you everything.
Well, what I'm thinking is this is like different parts.
spend
The first thing is Jay being a tower, because he could tow to our impound lot. Whether we ever do the other
that's
part,
my point.
So I think we need to do it in pieces and parts and stuff. So first, you get Jay to be the hauler or whatever we want to call it, primary tower or whatever, and then that starts working that way, regardless of whether he takes them to our impound lot or his place or wherever that may happen to be.
Right.
And then if based on the law director and you're working with him on getting the legis done that way, because we'll have to have a contract with him to pay him the $450 a month for an impound lot, and I'm sure it's going to take him a few weeks, months to have the actual impound lot and the building and all that stuff, so that's not going to happen overnight.
No, I told him that it would probably be mid to late February before I had it. At the earliest I would know that this is going to happen.
I agree. I mean, there's no reason you don't have to inform him, but at best case, I would just call it the fact that he's your primary, because you still may want to call somebody else in a predicament or a pinch. You could always use somebody if you wanted to.
I might have to.
Yeah, but I mean, you don't. I don't think you don't need any legislation to do it. No. I think more so it has to be agreed upon between you and the mayor that it's okay. You'll just use one company, and I like the idea.
Yeah,
I think it's a great idea.
And I don't. There's not a signature block on there for me or the mayor, it just a tow firm. And it's presented to them by Sergeant Black, who is the section commander, you know, to handle law enforcement issues. So, yeah, I'd like to go ahead and send that letter out and send it to all of them, and let the phone calls begin. Nick?
I just happen to think, what about like bicycles? That would you take them there too, or would you have it up here? Or?
Well, they're, you know, let's see, we keep them in the barn, but the barn's bursting, it seems. I know we've kept them over at the pool building, and but no, they're too easy to steal. Now that might change if we had an arrangement like this.
We talked about that a week or two ago, didn't we, Chief? About bikes. I was left with the idea that the bikes could go there too.
Well, you know, there's
Even
no
if
reason
there was some sort of a
big
lean-to there just to keep them out of the rain. That was be all that would be needed. That's all that's at the Parks building.
Yeah.
The only thing I was thinking was that's a big part of the auction.
Yeah.
And you might end up having two auctions in two different places if you don't have it
I
together.
thought we talked about that. That was something that could be discussed with
But just
Jay.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it can be. Those bicycles. You know, I've asked the auditor for permission to give them away rather than keep them. But apparently they bring too much because I just soon give them to the Salvation Army or something. But you know, I mean, if it's stream of revenue you can count on, I guess it's tough to overlook. Yeah, it's painful every time we impound one. Oh. Because I can't think of the last time we gave one back. You know, one that somebody came
to pick up my bike.
Yeah.
I need to go buy a new one.
And the way to get here.
Little Johnny.
I don't think Jay would be probably much opposed to.
No, I'm sure, you know.
Shelter and put a
Yeah,
run a
yeah.
cable through.
We could do that. We just didn't put them down there because they wouldn't be there the next day.
I would speak for him and say he would.
Where'd you spec that out with this garage that you're talking about? Maybe
Well,
spec something that'll be sheltering.
He's talking about I think one of those portable garages. I don't think he's thinking about even building one. I think he's going to rent it. Yes.
Are there any other specs that you need to require?
No, I told him I needed a building, at least a one-car garage for that. And it is a rare occasion that we.
This isn't climate control, but you need electricity, and what else do you need?
Well, we won't need electricity because we're right next to his building.
Okay.
And
You don't need it.
we just, if we needed to stick a car in there and some hand tools and, you know, forms, whatever.
It could be an overflow for evidence, secure place for.
Yeah, we could, if we, you know, because we've already had to do that with the one bay that we were using to process cars and keep cars such as I described, the ones that we seized. So, yeah, if we had one today, we'd probably have to put it in my office. Or donate it to beat the heat.
Depends on what they.
Yeah.
All right, does anybody have any other questions for Chief? Chief, do you have any more questions for us?
No, I just wanted to put that out there, and I appreciate your audience. And
You'll bring some legislation.
Yeah, I'll bring back information and some legislation. next time. Okay. And my last thing is a legislative request, and it looks very much like one you've looked at before. But some things have changed, and I hope you'll be receptive. But I come to you again with a request for monies to buy various items to celebrate and commemorate the police department's 50th anniversary. And I've already thanked her publicly, but I'll do it again. Mrs. Goodwin has really only reached out and touched a very few people thus far, and she's already raised $550, and her and her husband's company are donating the adhesive emblems that I wanted for our cruisers, and that's not even counting his graphic arts work he's put into it, because he came up with a pretty cool design. And as you guys know, I'm kind of into that wild graphics thing. And there's the finished product. Oh, that's sharp.
Funny you should ask.
That is cool. Timing's everything, because they haven't said yes or no yet.
Do some props at it.
And I should, as a matter of fact, it was Becky's suggestion. The people and companies that do donate will get a very similar emblem to put on their front door or in the bathroom mirror, whatever they want to do with it, but with some kind of rocker or verbiage that says we support the Heath Police Department, something catchy.
Yeah.
In other words, to identify them as helping us reach our calls.
Chief, I'd like you first just to kind of cue in there real quick. You came to us with this, $6,000 originally, and there was some talk about the problem with it, proposed tax rate increase and didn't get the money, and there was a lot of things discussed, legitimate items discussed, but all in all, Dwayne and Becky have gone out of the way. That's a nice donation for the ambulance. That was a reasonable amount of money, and the money that you were able to go out and raise. So, and that's what we talked about. Let's see what we can go out and raise. Almost 50% was covered. You're from 6,000 down to 4,000. So, I personally will say, as the chairman of the committee, I totally support it, and I would like to. I'd like to sign off on it. So, Dick, Val, there's two. So,
33%.
is it the third? Did I say wrong?
2,000.
Well, almost 50%. We're down to 4.
So 33%.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's down to 4. He's asking for 4.
Yeah, but it was 6 before, so it's 33% lower.
Well, I know, but I said
Well, then we also got
50 sounded better than 33%.
And we're not done fundraising yet either.
Yeah, we're not done yet.
I mean, once some of these go on, I'd like to think there'd be a little friendly competition among our business partners, and they don't want to be the only one without one.
Okay.
There's some more just came from.
Another 50.
All right. Well, that's an even 600. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
I got a list of who's donated if you're interested.
I did talk to some other people, and I left the letter with some other people, but I found out that I was definitely hitting them at the wrong time of year. But I think it helped his letter that he gave me that I presented, and the fact that I said, I'm a business too, and I welcomed the people to Heath, especially the new guy down the street. I welcomed him to Heath, and I said, do business. So I think it was just the wrong time of year to try to go after something like that. But still, what we got was greatly appreciated. So. got 100 more.
Okay, I have to be Scrooge for a minute because I'm still stuck a little bit. I thought the last time we left it that we were gonna just wait and once we had raised the money, we would appropriate it. Because once we appropriate it, we may not raise anymore and people are more likely to give to something if you haven't already said we're gonna get it regardless. And I'm still stuck on the fact of what Mark said about other departments that have been told we can't spend money on, you know, even though it's a wonderful thing, I think it's great, 50 years, I think it should be recognized, but when you're spending taxpayer money, I think we should be treating all the departments the same, and so I'm still there.
Well, the only thing I would say in response is that 1/12 of our celebrated year is gone almost, and by the time we would raise the money and have the dies cast for the specialty items and have them where we could use them, we're probably already submitting our 2014 budget request. You know, I don't know. I guess I'm a little bit of a risk taker at heart, and which is not all bad. I'm hosting the BT World Finals this August, and I had to sign a contract last week for almost $3,000 to get a guest appearance of this jet-powered funny car, and thankfully I have enough cars I could sell one, and otherwise, man, I'm going to be living in my office. So I guess I just look at things a little differently. Just because I knew if I don't schedule that jet car by the end of January, I'm not going to get it because some other venue is going to hire that entertainment, and so you know, it's kind of like, go ahead and do it and beg for forgiveness later if you have to.
I've said this before, Deb, but I'll kind of say it again, that I kind of look at it as like the fireworks. We're on the hook. And it used to be, I mean, back several years ago, stuff. The fireworks was going to cost us $10,000 or $11,000. Okay, and we assumed people would donate the money, and every year we used to have a list, and people gave $50, 25, 100, whatever, and eventually it added up to close to that or whatever and stuff. But it wasn't like we waited until we got the money and then all of a sudden said, "Oh, we've got this. Let's just go buy this much fireworks."
I understand we're not going to probably do that anymore.
Yeah,
the money.
and everything. But what I'm saying is, for the police, I'm saying, it's like, we'll allocate the 4. I was okay with the 5 or the 6 is what it was the first time and stuff. But I think people will still donate. I don't think people are going to say, "Oh, I'm not going to give you any money because you're going to pay it anyway." And even if we had to pay the whole amount, if no one donated a penny, I mean, it's 50 years. If it was just the 49th year and we're doing something for 40, or it'd be like, why are you doing for 49, or something like that, or the 53rd or whatever. But I'm sure we're going to do a 50. I don't think we'll do a 51, 52, 53. We'll probably wait to do a 60 or 75 or something like that. So it's kind of a once in a lifetime kind of a thing.
And I can tailor our expenditures to how the donations are coming in. I don't have to buy everything. It's just the list I gave you was kind of all encompassing. And do we need challenge points? No, we don't. Well, we don't even need this or that, but it'd be nice to have. So.
But with the donations of what we have here, you'll be able to encompass what you wanted to do.
Oh,
we get this legislation done here and with the.
Oh yeah, yeah, and I don't think people will stop.
Cletus, what's your thoughts, if I may ask? We got Dick's and Deb's and mine and Tim's. What's your thoughts? You like it? Don't like it?
I think we can hack it.
I think okay. All right. Jeff, what's your thought?
I agree with her.
Okay. All right. Can I have that?
Mm-hmm.
if I may add, we will stay on the fundraising. If you guys will just fund it for now, we'll stay on the fundraising and we'll get the money. The money will come together.
Where's the casket?
Timing
Just
is
another
everything,
100.
Mr. Heath.
I have to write this down in case I get all.
My girlfriend got stopped last week.
Yeah.
Oh, we only get
We'll just
$9
have to
for that.
take note of it, yeah.
Well, she didn't get a ticket.
Oh, can I use you for that Jet Funny card too?
Well, sure. As long as I get a front row seat.
Oh yeah, free tickets coming.
Okay.
And photo ops.
Okay.
Does
I'm
anybody-
in.
Anybody else have any other questions?
Not on that, I have, well, not a question, but, Chief, remember when I told you about the movie theater where they said the police officers came in, guns blazing?
Yes. Yeah.
I got more information, and it was on November 16th at the 9:45 showing of, I think it was the first day of Twilight Breaking Dawn Part 2. They said there were 2 officers, a male and a female, came in with shotguns drawn, and they went to at least one other movie as well on that night, and they talked to coworkers that had gone to that show at a different showing that night, and they said the same thing happened, and they were told later it was a drill.
We looked into it by checking our call records, and I didn't call the general manager because it was so bizarre. I couldn't wrap my head around why didn't somebody call us, and because no one did, and we have nothing to indicate that happened.
Now you have a date and time.
Yeah.
And then you can-
Yeah, what was the name of the movie again?
Breaking Dawn Part 2. The Twilight Breaking Dawn Part 2. Yes, that vampire or the teen thing.
Yeah.
November 16th?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, if somebody there would acknowledge that it even happened, I'd be surprised. You know, are you going to tell the police chief that, yeah, we were so stupid, we thought it was real? But yes, ma'am, I will.
It just kind of, I just kind of taken back by it. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, particularly not long after the.
Well, if somebody's impersonating our officers, it's a good thing to know.
Well, you know, but see, people aren't afraid to call us anymore about that stuff or challenge us.
Yeah.
Which is a
So
good
for
thing.
you not to
Yeah,
get
it
a
is a good
call
thing. You
about
shouldn't be afraid to
Yeah. So
make
for
us
you
show
not
my
to get a call, that's kind of really weird.
Yeah.
Strange.
There's probably cops in the audience.
35 ticket.
Yeah.
Usually if it's a vampire movie.
Piece of film at 250 Club.
If they have their silver bullet.
I'm sorry.
Tim has another question.
Oh, it's not a question, but I was just gonna say, next month at the safety committee meeting, after the safety committee meeting is done, if we can be done like at around 6:30 or so, I told the guy that has that camera about, you know, the traffic stuff, he's gonna come in and give a little presentation and
About
stuff.
6:30.
So I told him to come sometime after 6, and probably by 6:30 or so, we might be ready for him, you know, next safety.
What kind of stuff?
I'm just having to come here because he is a trustee, and so he has meetings on the 1st and 3rd Mondays. So he's available on the 2nd and 4th Mondays and everything. So I'm just having him come like at the end of the
Traffic light control
It's a
cam.
traffic light control camera.
Okay.
What it is instead of having the single cameras like we have now on 79 that do one direction, this is a camera that gets mounted above the intersection, like off to one side, and it's kind of like a fisheye or glass or whatever, but it does the whole intersection. And you can see all 4 directions, and you can put loops in, or tell traffic and stuff and everything. So it's just a demonstration. I'm just curious about it, and he wanted to do it. So, but it's not really. It kind of has to do with safety because it's a safety feature, but also has to do with streets. It also has to do with other stuff. But I just figured it's the best time to do it. So anyone that wants to stay for it, can stay for it. I don't know whether he'll have a presentation put on that or slides or what it
Let me know if you want
I told
to
him
put
he had the
something
computer and the monitor and stuff and everything, but he hasn't got back to me.
When is this?
next month.
Next month,
Next year.
after this, yeah. I told him about 6:30, about 6:30, approximately 6:30.
You got 30th Street.
Your receipt.
Really?
Yeah, 30th Street there,
I'll get
possibility. I'm just curious about what it is, and he wanted to show it and stuff. So
You want a receipt? I'll get you one anyway. You need a sticker.
Heath Police Department. Heath
Okay.
Police.
Thank you.
Anybody have any other questions? Yes, sir.
I'd like to get some thoughts from you, real quick, don't mean to drag this out. Positive effects of the median project on a safety perspective. Fewer accidents, et cetera. Do you have any thoughts, or can you formulate some thoughts, maybe for future agendas on a regular basis, to respond to some of the critics that are out there?
Well, here's what I always.
I'm inconvenienced in the name of improved safety, et cetera. I know you supported this from
I did.
the
I mean,
get-go, and
but
I'd just like to answer some of the critics that
well,
claim they're losing business and are inconvenienced with having to make a restricted use.
Well, I can't. I tell you, I've used them, and
number of accidents in that stretch of road.
I'll have to do some research,
right?
But
I don't expect you to have an answer tonight.
I mean,
it would be nice to publicly have some constructive, positive results of this effort of this event that's been going on for 7 or 8 years and is making from the drawing board to its finish in October, November, and the positive impact that we have had much fewer accidents, certainly no fatalities, certainly no serious injuries, or those sorts of statistics would be nice to.
Time will be needed, I think, to compile.
I know, and that's why.
Yeah.
Well, I think this year will be an interesting year to see the accidents there. I remember, what was it, a week or so ago, the Advocate had that article of the most, streets, the roads, or whatever that have the most accidents.
Nothing was in Heath.
Yeah, nothing was in Heath.
79 wasn't even mentioned.
I mean, I think 21st Street, North 21st Street was the first one mentioned. You talk about a road that needs a safety improvement project.
That's what 79 was. You know, you got a suicide lane and 2 other skinny lanes on either side. It's like, so over the course of time, we don't have much seasoning on this project, but
well,
make it a semi-occasional, just a report. Here's the constructive improvements in terms of how little we have in the way of accidents.
Yeah, I will do that, and here's another caveat. I always, and what I was getting ready to say, when people ask me about it, I was here when it was still under study. I went to the public forums, and in 2003, we had a hell of a lot of accidents, and so that was our mission, was to reduce those, and we did a pretty good job of bringing them down. They're, they were in the 60s. It's like they're on their way back up. We had 53 in 2008 accidents. We had 52 last month, but in 2011, December 2011, we had 58. 2010, we had 37. But that's just 1 month. Particularly here.
With that stretch of road, it would be nice to do that as an overlay through this.
Yeah.
Give us some positive stats to answer to the criticisms.
Well, the whole idea was to preclude, or not preclude, but we had fails. All I had to do was see that car lodged in between the poles in front of Red Lobster and say, something needs to be done. Or the woman that was killed a little bit further north because the woman that hit her blacked out or something and hit her head on. Those kinds of things aren't going to happen.
Yeah, those are quickly forgotten when somebody's inconvenienced.
Oh, I know.
Make it turn and go out a little out of the way.
Yeah. You get a little different perspective when you have to pull somebody out of a car like that, rather than hear about it.
It'd just be nice to share some of those sorts of positive statistics as time goes on.
You know, for me, over the past probably 2 or 3 months, I'm not sure that I've heard complaint one.
I have not heard.
I mean, I think people are, you know, especially that intersection in Andover and Oberlin. And I still see, you know, people turning left and not yielding to a car coming forward because they're used to how the old traffic pattern used to be. I still see that sometimes. I don't see it near as much as I used to. I don't hear about it at all. And I was hearing at least once a week somebody was calling saying, "Hey, do you know what's happening at that intersection?" And I was like, "Yeah, I do." So I think that, and I don't think that the adjustment period has ended, but people are adjusting to how the traffic pattern flows. I think the timing of the lights, the retiming of the lights has helped somewhat. But I think people are adjusting to, how do I get there from here now? And I mean, I have not heard any recently. Maybe the people that wanted to complain about it got it out of their system. Or maybe the people that, you know, maybe they've just adjusted. I don't know. But I haven't heard anything. And all I've heard the past few months is, boy, that's really going to look good in the spring when when those leaves come on those trees and those plantings look green, and boy, it really does set it off from Newark as you're heading southbound on Hebron Road into town. I mean,
I'll give you my best opinion. The day after Mopar Nationals.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if that will be an invite to go play on, or that's where they think the lawn chairs go, or the pickup trucks. This should be interesting.
That's where they're selling the 40-ounce beers.
Yeah.
It's a beer garden.
Yeah, are those trees going to grow tall enough to climb up and sit on a limb?
Probably.
Okay, anything else, anybody? All right, 7 o'clock, adjourned.
Thank you, everybody. This has been quite a night. Thank you so much, Jack.
Sure, if you're going that way, I can go for it.
Yep. Hey, Chief.
Thank you, sir.
No, I haven't even seen it.
I know that it was changed up.